You're not a Viking. Stop calling yourself a Viking. Greetings, my name is Blaze and welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I talk about thought, theory, and my interpretation when it comes to things that I'm interested in. Now, that original statement that I said, as well as the name of this video, was done intentionally to draw folks in. However, that is actually a thought that I have, and I would like to defend that in this video. Before I do that, I want to preface this by saying nobody has a right to tell you what you can and cannot do, nor what you can and cannot call yourself. That includes me. I have no right to tell you what you can and cannot do. However, I do have the right to my own opinion, and I would like to share that with you if you're interested in hearing. So before commenting below, please watch the whole video, because if I cover something in the video that you try to say in the comments below, I'm going to call you out on it. With that being said, let's go ahead and dig right in. I want to say this again, even though I've said it in many videos before. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional. I don't have a PhD. I research and study this stuff on my own because it interests me and fascinates me. It's part of my heritage and culture. It's something that I've always liked and been interested in. Now, I do research and I do read books and articles and watch videos from folks that do know what they're talking about. So it's not like I'm just pulling all this stuff out of my rear end. One of the first references I'm going to give you below is Herstwick. William R. Short is an author, and I guess he's basically a historian, but I've always been a huge fan of his work, and I think it makes a lot of sense. He has studied this a lot longer than I have, by far, and that's one of the first references that I'm giving below. Of course, I looked for references that matches with things that I've seen before, so I am trying to send you to sites that back up the data that I have found on this particular topic, which is Vikings. If you are interested in reading some of William R. Short's books, he does have at least 3 of them listed on Amazon right now. Men of Terror, which I plan to pick up one day, Viking Weapons and Combat Techniques, Icelanders in the Viking Age. So let's talk about the term Viking itself and where it actually comes from. The original origin of this word, as I understand it, there is a word, víkingr, and I, of course, could be butchering the pronunciation on this. There's the Old Norse word, and there's even the modern Icelandic word, which, as far as I understand, is pronounced very similar. This refers to an individual who goes on a viking, which today we would say Viking is how we would pronounce it today. And I believe I was looking up online, like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, they actually do pronounce it Viking, even in their own language. There's probably a little bit of an accent to that pronunciation, but that's what they use today. So the term today, people try to use this term Viking for a few things. They try to refer to everyone from the Scandinavian, Germanic, Nordic region as Vikings. They're all Vikings. That's Vikings peoples. And then they also try to use it for folks that follow the Nordic, Scandinavian, Germanic revival movements. So they'll be like, yeah, I'm following Norse paganism, so I'm a Viking. And that's what people say. It's okay if you want to do that, but I don't think it's an accurate use of the word, and I'm not a fan of using it. Because aside from saying víkingr refers to someone who did it, so it would be a víkingr instead of a Viking. Viking was an action that you did. And yes, my references below do back up that theory. But then there's also the fact, too, that the people were not Vikings or víkingr. It was something you did temporarily during a short period of time in your life. Usually it was young men, and they would go out to seek their fortune. You would go on a viking because you would be looking for settlements, places to settle so you could have your own land and expand and maybe raise your family there. You would go on raids so that you could take goods back and have wealth. Either, first of all, could be for your carl, or it could be for yourself, or it could just be for your family in general. So you would look for goods and stuff and wealth while you're out. You would also look for trade. You would go and find other individuals, and maybe you have some goods or things that you crafted or stole, whatever the case may be. Even though it's not technically stealing, it's more like spoils of war and combat. But you would do some trading and stuff like that. So there was many reasons to go on a viking. As far as I understand, the core word vik refers to like a bay or an inlet of water. And so the víkingr referred to someone from the bay or from this inlet of water. That's the way I understand the meaning and the definition behind the word. So that's the first reason why I don't think you should be calling yourself a Viking, because a Viking is something you went on, and even if you called yourself a víkingr, let's go ahead and use Viking for today because that's what they use. So if you're going to call yourself that, you're basically referring to yourself as a pirate or someone who sails and does a voyage, and you're trying to either settle or trade or raid different places. So if you're not traveling in your one spot, that doesn't really apply, in my opinion. Not to mention, even if you are traveling, if you're not traveling on a boat out of an inlet or a bay, again, I don't feel like that would apply then. So that's the first reason, based upon the original usage of the word. The other reason is the fact that I don't like using Viking for Scandinavian Nordic Germanic peoples, because not everyone was a Viking. They would go do this raiding and stuff and settling and trading for a period of time, not their whole lives. They were mostly, for the most part, a lot of them were farmers. So when you found land or you got your goods, you could do it for a few years, but you're not going to do it forever, and not everybody in that society is going to do it. It's kind of like trying to say, I'm a pirate because I'm English, or I'm trying to practice the old English ways. Some people in England were pirates. That doesn't make all of people in England pirates. So to refer to the whole society by one individual name like that, that's another reason why I don't think it's necessarily good to use the term Viking. Now, that is referring to that period in those people as Vikings, as well as why it might not necessarily apply to you today. But let's specifically look at the folks that are looking at calling themselves Viking because they're part of the Nordic, Germanic, Scandinavian spiritual revival movements. So, to begin with, ignoring the first 2 points that I brought up, the other point is Viking does not equal pagan. Just because you're a Viking doesn't mean you would be a pagan. If you look at the timeline for when the Viking era was ending, so I'm actually going to reference one of my videos where I did some of this research before and already shared it. It's actually called How to Become a Norse Pagan. It's over an hour long, so I'm going to take a section out of it. You can jump to the history section to see this. But I talk about some of these dates. So the Viking age essentially started in 793 CE. Then in Denmark, the Danes converted over to Christianity in 900 CE, right? Iceland converts in 1000 CE, Norway 1020, Sweden 1066. That's basically the end of the Viking era. So if you look from when folks started converting 900 to 1066 CE, you've got a very large period of time where you actually had potentially Christian or Christianized Vikings that were traveling around. So being Viking doesn't necessarily instantly mean Norse pagan. Just something to keep in mind, some food for thought. That is, in a nutshell, why I don't necessarily think folks should refer to themselves as Vikings today. Because they're not traveling on boats, they're not raiding and stealing, I hope, and it doesn't necessarily translate to being Nordic or Germanic pagan. That's just my 2 cents. That's why I don't think folks should use it. I understand that folks do. I respect folks that do. I'm not going to make fun of you and mock you for it, because it's something I study as well. I will feel a kinship with you because you also study and like this stuff as well. But it's just something that I think is worth bringing up and giving some additional information on for you to really consider. Is that something you really want to call yourself? So anyway, those are just my thoughts. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts below. As with any opinion that I have, and this is an opinion, I'm open to change my opinion with enough evidence and backing and suggestions. Either way, I respect you for whatever you want to do. I just think you should reconsider if you are using the term Viking to describe yourself today. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I've been called a Viking too because it's part of my heritage. But I don't go around labeling myself as a Viking. It's just something as a cute little pet name referencing some of my heritage more than this is my path. So yes, go forth, research, and question everything. Thanks for watching. Consider thumb up, liking, and subscribing. More videos coming your way.